Hi, I'm Ani.
And I'm Zeev.
And welcome to Wood-Fired Herping.
For today's episode, we're throwing it way back to the Pre Rona times. In the summer of 2019, we took a really cool trip to the very northwestern corner of the continental United States, where we marveled at the incredible nature, beautiful seasonal produce, the warm people, and yeah, we even came across a snake or two. So this episode, we're doing a full 180 from our trip to the Mojave Desert. Today we're going to be exploring the lush, wet Pacific Northwest, specifically the Olympic Peninsula.
Very different from a dry Mojave Desert.
Yeah, very different, especially in the last few years with the Mojave's been in such a drought and it's been so dry.
Bone dry.
It's been cool, it's been beautiful, it's been fun, but it's been dry. Yeah, we spent, back in 2019, we spent an incredible about a week and a half up there.
Yeah, I think it was 10 days.
Yeah, we fell completely head over heels in love.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. It changed my life.
Yeah, it's amazing. We fell in love with every tree, the streams, the mountains. Everything was so different from what we're used to here in the Southwest that it came as such a shock to us, but in a really nice way.
Yeah.
You know, if you haven't been to the Pacific Northwest, we cannot recommend making the trip enough. We haven't been there in the winter ourselves, winter or fall. We went there in the summer.
Bucket lister. I
Definitely.
do want to go.
I'm sure it's beautiful in winter as well. But we went in the summer, and if you're going for the first time, you should definitely go in the summer. It's sunny, it's lush, but it's temperate. It's not too hot. It's beautiful weather.
The mornings were a little cold, so I do recommend like a coat.
But but that was what was so nice about it. It was summer. Down here, where I live in Southern California, we were having 115 and 116 Fahrenheit days. And up there, we had mornings that were, in the 50s, and then the day got up to the 80s. And it was middle of summer. It's just really nice.
And it was, like, unnaturally green. Everything was just green.
So green.
It was unbelievable.
And you could tell it was a year-round green.
Yeah, know? That's Seattle.
Right. Yeah, so we flew from L.A. to SeaTac, where we rented an SUV and headed for Seattle on the first day. We spent a day in Seattle, and if you love food as much as we do, Seattle's an absolute paradise.
Oh, yeah. And if you're a seafoodie,
especially so.
Oh, we're both seafoodies.
Yeah, we can eat seafood all day, every day.
Different. It's so good.
It's so good. Yeah, in the course of a day, we went from eating from the freshest seafood, the best dim sum, coffee and baked goods everywhere, just the best coffee. Perfect pasta dishes, and some of the greatest Japanese food we've ever tried. We barely even scratched the surface, and we had such a great time in one day. On that trip up there, we only spent a day in Seattle. We really wanted to get across to the Olympic Peninsula and start exploring. So we woke up the next morning bright and early to catch the Bainbridge ferry across the Sound. So to get over to the Olympic Peninsula, you can either drive down south and loop around and come back up the peninsula, or take the Bainbridge ferry right across the Sound. Which I think is the best way to do it. It was super cool. Growing up in India, I've been on many ferries, but they were a little more than just these flat metal tubs that you could drive onto with huge diesel engines that would just kind of haul you across the river and deposit you on the other side.
This thing was wild.
It was huge. It was like a cruise ship.
Yeah. Okay, I haven't spent a lot of time on boats, and I was like, oh my God, am I going to get seasick on this thing? But it doesn't move. It doesn't rock. I've never been on anything like that. That was the first time.
It's so big.
It was the first time I'd been on anything like that.
Yeah, and crossing the Puget Sound was actually way cooler than I thought. I thought it was just going to be, half an hour, however long it was. I don't remember.
I think it was
half hour,
30.
45 minutes, yeah. I thought it would just be about, crossing, getting to the other side. But it was really, really neat. We spent the time on the top deck, and the sea life was just so abundant all around us. There were harbor seals kind of bobbing up and down all around us. In the distance, the occasional dorsal fin was popping up.
I know that was something we were keeping our eyes out for.
Yeah, we wanted to see orcas. Orcas was my bucket list animal to see up there.
Hawkeyeing
And
it.
every time we saw a fin, we just decided they were orcas, even though they were more likely one of the many species of dolphins that are native to the Sound. But yeah, every fin we saw was just an orca automatically. Once you dock in Bainbridge on the other side of the Sound, you drive off the ferry and start driving northwards. Our destination was Port Townsend, which is a beautiful little town on the, I guess, northeast corner of the Olympic Peninsula. And so we're driving through just the lushest forest and beautiful little organic farms everywhere that we were passing by. As we were coming into Port Townsend, the forest almost intensified. The trees got thicker, bigger. It was...
And I do want it. So I don't, I'm sure there are going to be people who are listening to this who are going to be like, why does that name sound so familiar? Port Townsend. And don't get mad. But people who watch Twilight will begin to say, why does that sound so familiar? But if you've watched the first Twilight...
This is the one time I hope we get hit with a copyright claim for even saying the name.
Look, non-spawn,
I hope they come in and shut down our podcast over that.
But it's the town, basically the town that the whole film kind of takes place in. It's Port Townsend. Port Townsend, Squim, that's where it's filmed. It's filmed in Washington. It's in Forks. Like La Push, the beaches that we were supposed to go, that's all where Twilight was filmed. In the movie, she goes to find a book, but the book library that she goes to is in Port Townsend. So that's a little movie trivia.
This podcast has just drifted so far away from where I was hoping to be.
Movie trivia.
Yes. You're fired. Anyway, getting into Port Townsend was really cool, though. It was. We were staying with some close family friends who moved up there from LA a few years ago. He's an award-winning, internationally renowned photographer. They just have a beautiful house with a really nice guest house, and they were kind enough to let us stay there for the whole time we were up there. And they're on the outskirts of Port Townsend, deep in the woods. We drive down this long dirt road even just to get them through the trees. Yeah. At night, you can't see a thing.
Not a thing, and it was wild. Every corner edge you took, your headlights were hitting deers. Yeah. So everywhere it was just deer everywhere, and they weren't afraid of you or anything like that.
No, they were coming right up to us.
Just chilling. Yeah.
It was cool. But so our base was kind of Port Townsend, but we spent the next few days exploring, the vast nature of the Olympic National Park and other areas on the peninsula too, different beaches and stuff. On the first day that we went out to the park, I think we visited... We did all the touristy things. Often when we go on our trips, we try very hard to stay away from the touristy things. The things that everyone does, that everyone goes to.
Yeah.
The things that are listed in the articles that say, 9 things to do when you visit blank. We try not to do that. We try very much to be travelers as opposed to tourists.
Exactly. My go-to thing, I know some people who like to... there are people who like to create an itinerary, like to be like, all right, we're going to go here, here, and here, because this is what's popular. My favorite thing, and I learned it from my aunt a long while ago when she, I'd gone with my cousin's family in Hawaii, it was to live like the locals. And that's when I go to new destinations, that's what I try to do, is to live like the locals.
So that's definitely what we normally try to do. However, in this case, we just went with it.
Yeah.
It was our first time there. We only had a few days to experience this stuff. And the Olympic National Park is so huge that trying to explore it on your own, also, it's not that accessible. There's only a few roads into it.
Yeah.
It's not like you can just explore every inch of the park on your own. To a large extent, there are only the areas that you can go to. So the first day that we explored into the park, we went up to Hurricane Ridge. And being that I don't enjoy doing touristy things, I was pretty apprehensive about going up there. I thought it was going to be a waste of time. It's probably the most visited part of the park. But I got to say, it was breathtaking. It was unbelievable.
For me, what was very interesting is you're up at the very top. And I don't know what it is, but you can almost put yourself back in time when you're up in these kinds of areas. Because you're looking straight out forward. And you're looking at mountain ridge and just, and just trees and trees and trees and trees that haven't been touched by people.
Right.
These are untouched. And so you're thinking to yourself, good golly, I am looking at, what, Native Americans or anybody who may have been standing in my place right now, I'm seeing the same trees they looked at.
Hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, they're looking at the same ridges, the same lakes. And I definitely know what you mean.
It's like, I don't know, it like sparks emotion, and it's such a odd feeling.
Yeah, and not only were the views at Hurricane Ridge incredible, it was also teeming with wildlife. I wasn't expecting that at all, considering how touristy it is.
Yeah, that they might not come out because I figured there might be too many people, but it was...
Right, in general, where you're super habitated, you don't see a lot of wildlife, but that was not the case up here.
The hills were alive with the sound of animals.
Yeah, probably what I wanted to see most up there were the Olympic marmots. And within about a minute and a half, we started seeing them. And they're all over. They don't get too close to people. You're going to have to see them from a distance, too. I definitely had to use my telephoto lens to get any shots of them. But they were there. They were just all around the hills. And it's really cool. They live in colonies. They make these burrows that kind of connect to one another. And the colonies can be as small as one marmot family, or it can be in multiple families, up to like 40 or more marmots all living together in this one system of burrows. And they have actually, what's really cool about them is how they communicate. They stand up and look for predators, and they have these series of whistles and sounds that they make to each other to signify different predators, where they're coming from.
If I remember correctly, there was one that we were taking pictures of that was just kind of standing up.
Right.
Like he was literally modeling for us.
Yeah, he was looking out for predators, and to his credit, a raptor flew over and immediately started whistling and dove down, and the rest of them all around, even though they weren't in the exact area they were in, all dove down too.
Do you have a good solid picture of this guy?
I gotta take a look. I don't know. I got some pictures. I don't think they came out so good.
I have some iPhone ones.
When I'm creating the Instagram post for this episode, which again you can find on Instagram at woodfiredherping, where we post all of our episodes, any kind of follow up to our episodes, photographs that go with the episodes, our social media links, recipes, links to our website, everything you want is on our Instagram at woodfiredherping. Just in case you forgot from last episode.
It's a nice selfish plug.
So we'll see when we're setting up the post for that if I have any pictures of the marmots.
They got it. We got to show
cool.
them this one. It's a fun one to definitely put an image to the story about the creature. So it's really dope.
Yeah, so that was cool being up there. Despite it being incredibly touristy, we still had a great time. And
I believe here we also saw. I think you actually do have some really nice pictures of this. Was
nursing deer. Yes, absolutely. I got a really, really great series of portraits, which was cool because they let us get close. And normally, mothers in general in the wild
super
don't
protective.
let you. Right.
Yeah.
And they didn't let me get too close, but with my, I was able to get some really nice portraits of the mother and baby.
I remember.
And those will definitely be on the post.
It was a really
photographing deer is okay as a pastime, I guess. Deer are pretty common. I have deer here in LA too. It's not the most exciting wildlife to go out and photograph.
But to see it like this, where it was a mother and nursing.
Right. It was a brand newborn. And it was cool. I mean, again, we talked about it in the last episode. We like common species.
Yeah.
We're not
it's
snobs.
Cool to me still.
We'll take deer. We'll take deer. We'll take side blast lizards.
Take wildlife.
Absolutely.
There you go.
On that first day, I think that was pretty much all we had time to do in the park. We got a late start, and so we visited Hurricane Ridge for a while and then kind of went back to Port Townsend. But the next day, we headed out and visited Lake Crescent, which is a little deeper in the park, a little further west. And that was probably my favorite day in the park.
Yes. I to this day still dream of Lake Crescent.
Yeah, in general, I have a real affinity for water, being near water, whether it's rivers, streams, ponds, lakes. And so I kind of seek them out whenever we go out somewhere.
Yeah.
I like spending time around them. And out of all of the different bodies of water that I visited on our trips, this was probably one of my favorites. The way you drive through just the densest pine forest and turn a curve, and just ahead of you suddenly open skies is the first thing you notice. That until now you're driving in dense forest and the skies open up, and then you look down and there's the bluest, clearest lake.
I've never seen water like
shore
this before.
Shore to shore, you know, pine trees coming right down to the lake. It's.
I definitely have some really, really cool pictures of the water that we will add to the post that does come along with this episode. I mean, the water wasn't even blue.
So the thing is with the water there is the chemical composition of the water in the lake prevents the buildup of algae, prevents algae from growing in the lake. So that's why it's so clear. You can be over it.
Yeah,
and
was like
it's super
teal.
deep. I think it's the second deepest lake in Washington, if I'm not mistaken. And so we did a bunch of stuff around the lake. But one of the things we did was kayaking.
Yep.
We went kayaking across the lake, which is a favorite pastime of mine. I love kayaking. It's really fun.
And I will say this was something... Okay, we'd known each other for quite a while, and I learned that for the first time when we went kayaking.
We don't got a lot of kayaking opportunities in Los Angeles, you know. We're not going to kayak the LA River, but yes, we went kayaking and we were over the middle of this lake, and you look down and you can see 300, 400, 500 feet down, just straight down.
It was crystal clear, and I remember we were kayaking, and we stopped for a minute, and I put my hands in the water. And it wasn't exactly clear. There was it was.
Well, it's dark. It's clear, but it's dark. It's dark water.
And I remember putting my hands in it, and you can feel the cleanliness of the water. It was I had never experienced a lake like that. You know,
yeah.
we
go
cool. to lakes here, in LA.
First of all the lakes around us are all man-made for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any natural lakes actually around us. They're all made by damming something, which actually is how Crescent Lake was made too. But that was dammed 8,000 years ago in a landslide, not by man. And the lakes here are all full of motor-powered boats and fishing. They're stocked for fishing here. And everything. That's not done in Lake Crescent. Actually, as far as fish go, Lake Crescent has 2 endemic species of fish that are only found in that lake and nowhere else. Because it got isolated 8,000 years ago, 2 species have so far...
they're still there?
They're still there. They're subspecies, not actual full species, but there's 2 subspecies of trout that are not found anywhere else but that lake, which is kind of cool. You won't find that in any lakes around here.
No. But for Crescent Lake, I remember or Lake Crescent rather, when we were going up to it, I remember we stopped at a couple ranger stations, and I ended up seeing some signs. But what's a big attraction there to go for is actually, because you're so far out of any kind of light pollution, you're so high up, it's a great way to see the Milky Way.
Yeah.
And stargazing. It's actually
in general,
very
the
popular for that.
Olympic National Park is great for that, especially Hurricane Ridge. Even more so than the lake, because you're that much higher, and they have the telescopes and everything built in there.
It was something we didn't get to do, but I know...
No, we were staying a little too far from there to be there at night.
To go at night. But I know for sure the next time we do go out there, which 100% we will, that's definitely something that we're gonna have to do. But if you're going out there, I recommend giving it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I gotta say, you're hearing us wax poetic about a lake, which is basically the most touristy thing you can do. Is I went on vacation. I went to the lake. You know?
But this is different.
But this was different. This lake really was different.
The way.
Hopefully, we have some listeners either now or in the future that are from Washington or have visited,
who can vouch
and they
for
can
us.
back us up on this. Yeah. If you've been to Lake Crescent, comment. Send us a message so we can post it, so people know we're not just going crazy about this lake. So people don't think
we're crazy.
Right. Another incredible place we visited was the Dungeness National Wildlife Refuge. That's located near Sequim, which was a town that we used to kind of stop in on the way into the Olympic National Park. And one day after breakfast, we were just driving around and kind of stumbled upon this. This wasn't somewhere we planned to go ahead of time. You
was cool. You stopped and you were able to hike down.
Right, so you park on top of the bluffs, on top of the cliff, and you hike down this really steep path down to the sand spit.
Yeah. And for this one, if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the longest.
Yes, it's one of the longest sand spits in the world.
It's about almost 7 miles long?
Yeah. 6.87 miles, something like that. And a sand spit, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically a peninsula, but it's a very narrow peninsula.
Very,
it's made of sand.
Slim.
Right, it doesn't narrow down. It's narrow the whole way. I don't know if that's a requirement to be a sand spit, actually. But this one was.
Like a shot of spit?
Yeah, that's why it's called that. So we didn't actually go down the spit the whole way. We kind of stayed near the beginning of it. And we didn't need to go much further. Kind of the wildlife started right away. right when we got down to the beach, the first thing we saw was a pair of bald eagles.
Flying,
one of them
yeah.
was nesting in the tree, and the other one was just kind of flying around. And we have bald eagles in California. We even have them in the greater Los Angeles region. And so we've seen them every once in a while. Wasn't a new species for us to see, but it never gets old.
Actually,
was it for you?
For me, it was the first time.
That's cool.
It was the first time I'd seen one.
It's very cool to see a bald eagle for the first time.
Wild and live like
Right.
that. That was the very first time I'd seen one.
Yeah. But yeah, even though I've seen them before many times, it's always cool to see them.
Yeah.
They're such
They're majestic.
There's a reason they're the bird that they are,
Yeah.
So that was cool, the bald eagles right there. And right away, just on the shore, there was just a multitude of, funnily enough, Dungeness crabs.
Yeah.
Now, being a chef from LA, I was very excited to go to the Pacific Northwest for many reasons.
Like
one
we
is
were
the
just gonna
produce.
take buckets home of it.
Right. Well, one of the reasons I was excited to go is the beautiful produce and the mushrooms and just everything. But the other reason was the seafood, and specifically Dungeness crab. In LA, we don't get to use Dungeness crab very often. It's a delicacy. It's expensive. At least live, fresh Dungeness crab is. And so to walk down the beach and just see them, I'm over there salivating at these dead crabs on the sand.
That's the thing. They weren't even alive.
No,
they were all dead. They were
I'm getting excited over there,
They were either dead or they were completely hollowed out. They were
Right.
just shells at
Right.
that point.
But it was cool to see.
Yeah, nonetheless, it was
yeah.
cool. Definitely cool.
We spent a couple hours at the Dungeness Refuge and just kind of photographing all kinds of cool stuff, from the Dungeness crabs to little ghost sand crabs. I don't know shit about crustaceans.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're called ghost crabs.
I have no idea.
I know there are ghost crabs.
I was trying to catch them.
I don't know if ghost crabs are what those are, but the little pale crabs darting in between our feet, trying to get photographs of them was a nice little challenge. And then there were harbor seals.
It's
around.
it's a nesting site for them.
Yeah, right. They nest there during their. Well, they don't nest, I guess. I don't know what you would call it. They come ashore to give birth and to nurse their, the
during
seal
mating
pups.
season business.
Yeah. So there's actually months of the year where it's closed off to jogging or cycling or any of that because of the seals. So it's cool to see them. And and then we kind of took off from there. That was in the morning, and we took off into the Olympic National Park. It was kind of a stop on the way.
Leaving it was actually really cool because when you got back up to the trail that brought you down to the spit, you had two options. You had the regular trail, which is what we took going down, but then it split off, and you also had the Jurassic Trail. You remember that? We took the Jurassic Trail. We had no idea how long it was. We didn't know where it led us, but it was basically the jungle trail. And we took it, and we kept going and going and going, and we were like, man,
I kept insisting this was going to take us back to the parking lot. No, everyone else doubted me.
We didn't see a single person.
No.
Until the very, very end.
Did it take us back to the parking lot?
I mean, yeah.
Okay, well
but
was I right the whole time?
I knew it would take us back. We just didn't know if it was going to be a mile or 5 miles. But it was really cool because you're in like a foresty area. You're also over by the beach.
Right.
But this walk through was like...
Right, you hear the waves crashing on the shore, but you're deep in forest.
Deep, but like sections of it was like lush green, like almost jungle.
Right.
And so I recommend that if you're going to take one of two trails, always choose the Jurassic Trail. Because it proves to be a much more invigorating experience.
Yes.
I may have given you shit while we were taking it, but you know what? I don't regret it.
No, for sure. Yeah. And then so we spent probably 4 or 5 days exploring the nature. And then we spent a couple of days devoted to food, or what I thought would be devoted to food, and actually ended up being about nature as well. But one place we really wanted to visit, I knew ahead of time, it's a farm in Chimicum, which is a town near Port Townsend, and it's called the Kodama Food Forest. And it's a really, really cool farm that's doing a lot of really cool stuff with sustainable and organic farming. They farm a lot of native produce and stuff, but they also have this food forest that they're building. And the idea behind the food forest is that you create an ecosystem where from the ground to the canopy, it's food. You plant things on the ground that work well, growing under things. You plant things in the mid canopy that work well as fruit that grows in the mid, fruit or vegetables that grows at that level. And then you plant things at the top. Well, I mean, you plant them on the ground, but they grow to the top that work best as the top canopy. Instead of devoting land to just one crop, whatever the level is, you can kind of grow multiple different crops in one section and maximize your...
I think when we were there, I don't think it had fully developed just yet. It was going to be coming around in the next few months, but they were growing bananas.
Yeah, I think probably the first and only banana tree to bear fruit
in Washington,
in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, absolutely. It was really cool. And they were such warm people that were so generous with their time and taking us around the farm. Again, kind of at the time, I was a little deeper into the chef world than the herping world. And so we went there kind of learn about their farming practices and the just the different produce they grew. And it was just an amazing time. So definitely check them out on Instagram. I'll link them in the post.
Definitely give them a follow. They're really,
but yeah,
really
also
great.
If you're ever in the area, they have a little farm stand there where they sell produce from the farm. They make soap right there on the farm.
From their glyph where they use make goat's milk, all that kind of stuff.
They make stuff out of the goat milk, all kinds of different products. They sell their eggs there. Just a really cool place. But the reason I'm talking about Kodama Food Farms.
So, okay.
Food Forest, rather.
So we've been waiting. I obviously we're wood-fired herping.
We're a herping podcast.
So I know we
haven't talked about any herping.
I know we've talked about all kinds of wildlife, but we've brought you to this moment. Is when we bring in the herps.
So although we didn't see a lot of herp diversity,
if any, really,
right, we more than made up for it with quantity.
Oh, that's for sure.
This farm was absolutely overrun, and I mean just overrun with garter snakes.
Yeah, at one point you were like, why? Like, it looked like the grass was alive.
Right.
That's what it was like.
Of all different sizes. Neonates, adults, subadults, just writhing about. Not in the way that, I'm sure most of you are familiar with garter mating balls, where you see hundreds, if not thousands of garter snakes writhing over each other. It wasn't like that. They were spread out. It was just so many of them there. They were just so thick. Yeah. Right. And so the garter snakes up there are the Puget Sound garter snakes, which are an endemic species to Washington. It's a subspecies of the common garter snake, which goes from Canada to the United States, across from the west coast to east coast. It covers pretty much most of North America. So this is a subspecies of that. And they were just had this really beautiful light blue coloring with orange highlights. There'll be a picture of it in the post, of course, as with everything we've talked about. And so that was really cool. Actually, one of the reasons I wanted to go to this farm was that I had seen posts on their Instagram ahead of time of the snakes, and having been snakeless for a couple of days, I was kind of going through withdrawals. And so we went there, and I actually asked them about it, and they said, "Oh yeah, we have a couple of garter snakes here. We might see them when we give you the tour."
It wasn't.
And we step out of the farm stand and start walking in. Within maybe 35 seconds, the first garter snake is just like darting off underfoot.
But if I remember correctly, it like took a second to realize. Like I remember being like, he was pointing out his tomatoes or something. And
no, he was pulling beets out of the ground for us.
That's right. And so then I think while he was down, we were all looking down.
Yeah, we're standing in this grassy patch, and he's pulling out these beets from this cultivated part. And suddenly I look down between my feet, and there's just garter snakes between my feet.
It got to the point where you were afraid to where you were going to put your feet down.
Yeah, I was worried of walking. At some point, you're just like, I'm just going to end up stepping on these snakes if I keep walking. Yeah, so that was really cool.
It was really amazing to see.
Garter snakes are especially the common garter snake, it's such a fascinating species because it's done well enough to exist across the country. It exists in most habitats, apart from deserts and more extreme habitats, but they're really generalists. They do really well in adapting to developed areas. As long as they have some water, they're pretty good. And like I'm saying, you can find them from the east coast to the west coast. And I don't think you can say that about many other species. So after spending some time at the Kodama farms, we gathered up some of the amazing produce that they had for sale there. And stopping at a couple other farms along the way, we picked up the ingredients for really an incredible meal. Although we weren't camping, we definitely still were cooking over wood. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it on the podcast. They had a beautiful outdoor fireplace for us to cook in. And so that was a treat. And usually, we're building little fire rings out of rocks or bringing a fire ring out there with us. And so it was fun to cook over this beautiful wooden fireplace. And so the recipe we're going to be talking about today is a seared lamb loin with roasted scallion, garlic, and mint chimichurri. You can't see me, but I'm making quotation marks over the chimichurri. And garlic smashed potatoes. And so I'm making the quotations marks over chimichurri because chimichurri is a specific recipe, and there's been a trend in recent years to call anything that resembles it in consistency a chimichurri. And I've fallen victim to that trend, or maybe not victim, have perpetrated that trend as much as anyone. But I wanted to point out that what I'm going to say is not really a chimichurri, it's just in the style of a chimichurri.
I like your disclaimer, man.
Yes.
So to go ahead and craft this meal, you're going to need a few things. For starts, you're going to need 1 lamb loin.
And for the lamb loin, you definitely don't want it too big. You don't want it too small either. Depending on how many people you are, anywhere between 2 and 4 pounds would be perfect for this.
For seasoning it, you're going to need salt and pepper. And then you're going to need some scallions, about 2 bunches, mint, thyme, 2 heads of garlic, olive oil, lemon, chili flakes or fresh charred chillies, fingerling potatoes, butter, and something you're going to need as a tool for cooking, you're going to need some foil.
Yeah. You can also, it might not be easy to get this. I've gotten it through the restaurants I've worked at. You can order it online too. If you don't want to use it, that's fine. But you can use Fennel pollen, which is a really great little seasoning to kind of finish a meal with. It's literally the pollen from fennel, which is beautiful, but that's totally optional. So the most important part of the recipe is probably letting your lamb come to room temperature before you start cooking it. So go ahead and pull it out, let it start to come to temp, and meanwhile, you're going to start making your chimichurri. Take your scallions, roast them over the open fire till the greens are lightly charred and the bulbs are kind of soft and a little translucent. Pull them off the fire, cool them down a little, chop them up super fine, chop your mint super fine. You want to mince 3 cloves of garlic. Throw that all in a bowl and cover it just barely with olive oil. Throw in a healthy pinch of salt, pepper, lemon zest from one of the lemons, chili flakes or charred chilies if you're using it, and the juice of about half a lemon. Go ahead and give it all a stir, taste it, adjust the seasonings to taste, and set that aside. Next, grab your lamb that's been coming up to temp and season it generously with salt and pepper. Grab your cast iron pan, put it over the hottest part of the fire, and heat it up till it's smoking. Add a light layer of oil into the pan, just enough to barely coat the bottom, and go ahead and add your lamb in. You're going to sear it on all 4 sides for about a minute to a minute and a half on each side until it's browned. Take your pan and move it to a cooler part of the grill. So while you're searing it, you keep it on the high heat, just to keep that unrelenting heat on there to get that nice brown crust. And once you've seared all 4 sides, move it off to a cooler part of the grill. Throw in a knob of butter, a few cloves of crushed garlic, and a few sprigs of thyme. Cover loosely with the foil. Tear a sheet of foil and just kind of tent it over it. You don't have to, obviously the pan is super hot, so you don't watch your fingers, don't want to really tightly press it into the pan, but try to cover it as much as you can. And let cook for 8 to 10 minutes for mid-rare to medium-ish. Uncovering and turning the lamb every 2 minutes so that each side gets a chance to be in that garlic, butter, thyme mixture in the pan. And you definitely don't want to overcook lamb. Lamb gets super tough when it's overcooked. And it's just a waste. It's such a beautiful meat. And it's really a waste to overcook it. So it's about 8 to 10 minutes total from medium rare to medium. If you prefer it rare, about 7 minutes to do the trick. Meanwhile, while that's cooking and kind of basting in the butter, throw your fingerling potatoes into a pot, cover it with water and a generous amount of salt. You want it to be kind of salty like ocean water. In a restaurant when we're cooking, we always say the water should be salty like the sea. Put it over the fire at the hottest part and boil it till they're soft and easy to poke through completely with a knife or a fork, where the knife or fork just goes straight in and out without any resistance. Take them off the heat and drain carefully. Let them cool for a few minutes, and then on a sheet tray, if you have that, or a plate, whatever kind of surface you have, take each fingerling one by one and just kind of smash it with your hand gently until basically until it bursts, until the skin breaks and it kind of flattens. Toss them in olive oil and set them aside. By this point, the lamb should pretty much be done cooking. So go ahead and pull that out of the pan so it can rest, and remove any aromatics from the butter. The garlic, the thyme, if you used any other herbs, pull that all out and keep keeping the butter in the pan. Throw those potatoes that you tossed in olive oil and smashed into the pan, and put the pan back over the hottest part of the grill so that it lets the potatoes start to crisp up. After about 3 or 4 minutes, you can flip them over so the second side gets crispy as well. Meanwhile, while those are cooking, hopefully you've let your lamb rest. We talked about resting in the last episode. For about 6 to 8 minutes. Again, the general rule when you're resting meat is to rest it for as long as you've cooked it. It's been resting. Now you can go ahead and slice it. Nice big even slices along the length of it. Once you have that sliced, you have your potatoes cooked. And take a big spoonful of the potatoes on a plate, top it with the sliced lamb, and you're going to spoon that beautiful scallion and mint chimichurri right over the top of that. So it kind of drips down and covers the lamb, covers the potatoes. And if you're using the fennel pollen that I mentioned, now you want to dust that over it. One of the great things about this recipe is we cooked it entirely with local produce. I talked a little bit in the last episode, or maybe it was the intro, I don't remember, about the importance of cooking seasonally and getting stuff that really speaks to what you like, but also what's in season at the time. And there was nothing more seasonal than going to these farms, picking straight from the ground in some cases, the produce, heading home and cooking it right then and there within an hour of it being out of the ground.
So along with getting some of our ingredients from the farm that we did mention, we also visited one of the farmers markets going down in Port Townsend.
That was really cool.
That was very, very lovely. And we got to, interact and try the fresh foods from different farms around the area as well. And so we were able to gather all kinds of fresh veggies and seasonings that we were able to use for this recipe, which was really nice. Lovely.
And I think you can definitely taste when you're cooking using the terroir from where you're at. You can taste that in the food. It feels grounded in a way. It feels right.
Very, very natural.
Yeah, it just feels right. Thank you for sticking with us right up till the end, where we kind of talk more in depth about some of the things that we touched upon in the episode. And the first thing I want to talk about a little more is farmers markets. We were just talking about them. And farmers markets sometimes get a little bit of a bad rap as being pretentious or
it's the bougie
elite
thing to
or
do.
snobby or bougie, right? Nothing could be further from the truth. Farmers markets are awesome. They're super down to earth. And they're a really, really great place to shop. Not only are you supporting local businesses and people in your community, you're also getting the freshest, most seasonal stuff you can be. You know, so much of what we buy in supermarkets was either picked weeks ago and then kind of ripened artificially, picked on the other side of the world and shipped in, or grown with the help of all kinds of pesticides and other nasty stuff that you really don't want to be eating.
Yeah. And with farmers markets, it's such a wonderful thing to go because what it does is it brings you back down to basics here. You are talking with people who have grown the food you're buying with their bare hands without the with the added hormones or preservatives or anything like that to make it the reddest of apples or the largest of
farmers
vegetables.
Market produce is often uglier aesthetically than
the
supermarket.
It's not the prettiest.
You go in and you talk to these guys in the farmers market, and the passion and love for what they have is always so apparent and so beautiful.
Very.
You're talking to someone who dedicates their life to the food that they're giving you, to this produce, to this one apple. You know how many hours of their life went into this one apple that you're buying from them? And
you're listening to them. You say, when did you guys get here? Some of these people are with a smile on their face. They're like, we woke up at 4 a.m. to be here. We drove 2 or 3 hours to be here.
Right.
And they would do it every day if they could. There's so much passion in it. You aren't just, it's not just that you're getting the freshest foods, but you are also, it's something that just kind of makes you feel human.
Right. You're immersing yourself back into your community.
Yeah. A major part of this whole trip that we did take was to experience the Olympic National Park. And so I did want to speak about the real importance of national parks that we have. National parks aren't necessarily just for, looks. exploring a national park is, it's proven to really help out and promote very healthy physical as well as mental health, being out in the sun and kind of allowing yourself to get back to basics and to bringing yourself to being your most human self. National parks, they're so important to keeping alive the biodiversity of animals, of the agriculture and the plants, everything around. It preserves the importance of history, of human history, the history of the land itself as well. And so we definitely want to advocate to the importance of going out and experiencing a national park. It could be the national park in your own hometown or taking a trip to going out and experiencing one.
Right. The great thing about the national parks is there's so many of them. You're never far from a national park.
Exactly. And I've spoken to about it with people before, and they would always say, "Oh, I've never been, or I never even knew that existed." And so we definitely want to bring to light the importance of going out and exploring these places, because even for the both of us, going to the Olympic National Park on this trip, we both really got to experience new creatures, new world, new life. And it really opens up the eyes, it opens up the mind, and it helps you grow as a human, I think.
Yeah, I think national parks is one of the best things we have in the United States.
It's one of the best things the U.S. has done for it.
Absolutely, for itself, yeah.
For itself.
So thanks for sticking with us till the end. Go ahead and subscribe, follow, leave a review. Check us out on Instagram or on Facebook as well. Anywhere you get your social media, you can find us. And you definitely want to be subscribed. We have a really cool episode coming up for you next time.
So yeah, go ahead and subscribe wherever you do get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anything like that. Like Steve said, go ahead and subscribe to us so you always get the notifications when a new podcast is up. And go ahead and leave a review. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, well, we're definitely, we've gotten some great feedback on our first couple episodes, but we're curious to know what you think about this going forward. Leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice, or reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook. Tell us what you think. We'd love to hear from you.
Definitely would love to hear from you. So, well, without further ado, hop in the car. Let's go.